It's now time for Monster Soup, with your really fun at parties host, Dave Spencer, and his level-headed co-host, Brian McKinney. These dudes will explore all the crazy mysteries roaming off forest and deserted hallways. After all, monsters are real. It's Monster Soup time right now. Get it while it's hot. And now your hosts, Dave and Brian.
Hello. Welcome to Monster Soup. It's a kitchen and conversation with misfits, cryptids, and these kids. I'm Dave Spencer, your golden retriever host, and with me is the Mexican wrestler, as the Mexican wrestlers like to call him, the great Bridito, but as we call him, Brian McKinney. Welcome, Brian.
Welcome. Happy Friday.
Hello.
You're getting it done this week. This is a rough one.
Oh man, it is a weird week. Weird. So yeah, we have Tana coming on in a bit, but she's running a little late. But I think that we have enough to talk about in the beginning because it's been a very weird. Actually, what I learned just like 2 hours ago, and maybe other people were aware of this. I had no idea. Even though he's a total scumbag, Michael Jackson had a song that was Thriller, but it was called Starlight. Were you aware of that?
Yeah. You ever heard Starlight before?
I never heard it. It was like if AI made a song, and I was just like, yeah, surely this isn't real. And like I was just like looking through it, like this is obviously like made by somebody. There's no way they just like recut a song and change the lyrics.
Yeah.
And then somebody was just like, you can listen to this when it's not Halloween.
It's basically all the same music. It's just different lyrics. And it's like a disco song.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the intro of the like.
It's not the scary part of it. Yeah. And well, an interesting fact I saw the other day on something about Thriller where they had said that Vincent Price was offered, it was like $20,000 to do the voiceover, or he could get a cut of the album. And because Michael Jackson was, pseudo popular, and he was just like, I'll take the 20 grand because it's guaranteed. What a poor decision that was.
Oh yeah. He called out who was it? Who's the producer?
It was Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones at a party. He's like, you screwed me. Because it is the most popular freaking song of all time.
Yeah, record of all time. Yeah, he would have had a cut of that.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I used to this is so cringy, but being a kid is cringy. I used to like play with my bow staff and like do like karate to that song. And I would like choreograph like ways to use my staff. I'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Being a kid is so gross.
We got some of our friends showing up here in the chat. We got Octopus with no friends. Hey, we had good times last week with you and Scott M. Hey now, I might know that guy.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming that's your brother. What else did I wanted to talk about? Something else. I had something in my brain. I don't know. But
before we get to the story of the week.
Yeah, the story of the week. I just want to mention that we have the worst house picks that have ever been house picked. I don't even think Matt Gaetz would have picked Matt Gaetz for that job. Not to get political, but you know what? Whatever. Who cares? Yeah. Okay. So what I really wanted to talk about is this hearing this week from the UAPs. Holy crap. It was so much fun. Like I love all that stuff. But it was just like hearing all those like little snippets, and I just kind of like heard about it like very tertiarily on TikTok, and then it started like feeding in, and I was just like, oh, and then and I listen. I never subscribe. I still won't, and I never will, to people that go like, was this a distraction from something? There's always things going on. There's always things like the fact that like they think people can't like juggle like 5 different like complete like urgent things at the same time. They have never had kids, I think, at that point. You have to make food and you have to get them to practice, and both of them are important. So it's like finding out that aliens are absolutely so if you guys haven't heard the news, basically where it comes down to is they had this committee hearing.
This was the second one. They did one. Yes, it was either earlier this year or late last year, but this was like the follow-up to a congressional hearing.
And obviously we didn't see any pictures, which I still don't. It's the thing that always throws me off is we're talking about government entities to the government. It's just like, and I understand there's like different branches of the government, and that's like how that works. But it's just like, it'd be like me talking to me and being like, you have things, and I'd be like, no, I don't. It's like talking about that, but like just like, hey, let's just like, I don't know, like let's just ask them. The Pentagon is right there, like you have access. But like I know it's like a whole, like everything's, the thing that really drives me crazy is that like we're not looking at this as like a curiosity thing. We're looking at it as like a gun, and I'm like, can we not? I just want to know about aliens. I don't care that you want to use them. Like, you don't need a new ship. You have so many ships. Just use the ships you have. And I know it's just a matter of like you don't want to be the last one to get the gun. You want to be the first one to get the gun. But it drives me crazy. I'm just like, let's just like tell me everything. I just want. What do you mean that? Like they said that some of them look. Sorry, if you have nothing about, if you know nothing about this, I've told you nothing. But basically they said that aliens are 100% real, and there's some that come from space, but there definitely is ones that they have footage of. Every country has footage of some sort of craft arising from the sea. So basically there is and they also have a humanoid. They have not humanoid. What's the word for it? They have beings in their possession, and these range from looking like they all look different. And some of them look like uncanny valley level of just perfect human beings. So they asked him straight up, so do you think they might be living among us? And he goes, I would absolutely think that is happening. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah. And it's funny because when they would talk, because it just like, tons of congressional hearings and stuff, and they're just like, oh, we can't talk about it here in an open setting, blah, blah, blah. But they would say things like, well, do you have a knowledge of this? And it's like, well, I've been instructed that I'm not allowed to talk about this. And they're like, well, they say it doesn't exist. How is it that you've had to sign papers to say you're not going to talk about something that doesn't exist? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If it doesn't exist, why would they tell you can't talk about it? And like there's just so many layers of things going into that, but they're pretty much just straight up like, they're here, they've been here, they've always been here, and we have bodies, we have crafts, we have all this kind of stuff. We can't show anything to you or talk about it in any more detail than that because we're not allowed to. But if you ask the right people, you can find this stuff. And then they talked about the Immaculate Constellation, which is that program that was uncovered like a month or so ago. That they brought that up a couple times. Yeah, where somebody in the government stumbled across some stuff that they saw, some stuff they weren't supposed to see, and then reported on it. So now the one guy that was there wrote that article sourcing all of this stuff. But it talked about all these programs where they have for retrieval of crashed ships and things like that. And I'm gonna start looking more into that stuff because this is the two things that have been my jam since little kid was Bigfoot and aliens. Ancient Aliens, my favorite TV show. I love all that stuff. It everything about it intrigues me. I don't necessarily commit to all that stuff, but like what we always talk about, like the weirder the better. Like some of that stuff, you're just like, it's so off the wall, but it's like it's just as good of an explanation as anything else. Yeah, and, it's just another mystery to solve. Let's dig into it. Let's figure out what this stuff is. Maybe it's nothing, extraordinary or interstellar. But right now we don't know what it is. So let's dig into it.
I really just don't understand why they they didn't, like, why did they gaslight people for so long? Like they knew these things were happening, and people got their careers ruined because they reported it. Before we get any further, she's here, so I'm gonna get her in here. She can join our conversation. I just want to make sure she was all set up. Okay, so welcome to the show.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay.
Perfect.
Yes, you can hear you. I can hear you perfectly. Can I say real quick that I know your name, but also I was just like, wait, I don't think I've ever said it out loud. I've only said it in my head. It's Tana. It's Tana. Okay. I didn't want to say it wrong the whole time, and then you'd be like afterwards, like, "Hey, I thought we were friends." Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I'm used to it.
I kept adding a Y, and I was like, I know it's not Tanya. Like, okay. So this is our friend. This is our friend, Tona, and she we met you at in the chat group of Stagic Legends and everything, and then we've met you at Monster Fest, and we've talked about a bunch of spooky stuff together. So yeah, welcome to the show. This is Monster Soup. We talk about all things silly and spooky. So right now we're talking about the hearing that just happened. So yeah, so getting back into that, we were basically my whole thing was just like, why were we gaslighting people for so long? Like we were aware of it, like it was happening. But yeah,
and I get that, on one hand they're just like, as far as national defense, like we don't want to tip off our enemies that we have weaknesses and there's holes in our defense. But at the same time, they're going through the same thing. And it's not, if this is happening here, it's happening in other places.
Why can't they show us the bodies?
I think that's what irritated me the most, was everything that he could not talk about.
Yeah.
Or if he said, well, we'll have to have that behind a closed door.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Just show us. Like, that's all we really want to know is, what do they look like, right? Like,
we're paying you. Yeah. I mean, I know that, like, it's a national security thing. I get it. It's fine. It just annoys the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh,
Me
but
too.
yeah.
Yep.
Jesus. I just looked at the chat. Yeah, so I don't know. It's so weird. But like I love it so much, and just the idea. I mean, I've talked about this for a couple weeks on the show. The idea of them being in the ocean and coming from the ocean, and then just even weird stuff that's in the ocean. But also to find out that like a weird tentacle beast would like scare the crap out of me, I'd be like, no, we're good, because everything in the ocean is scary.
Yeah, I already don't like to go in the ocean. Now it's even worse.
I know. Yeah, actually, that's my son's exact words last night when I was talking to him about it. Okay. So I'm going to give you an official introduction. I know I told you where we met, but would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, Tana?
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I did work in the emergency room in Memphis for about 15 years, and then I worked in same-day surgery for 5, and then I retired early. I quit, but I was having, William's my only child, and I was missing a lot of stuff from him growing up. And then my father-in-law at the time was diagnosed with cancer, and they wouldn't let me off. But anyways, it's a whole long story. So, but yeah, that's after that, I've just been a stay-at-home mom, and trying to get a Airbnb up and running. And so there you go. Not that interesting.
Oh no. Well, so the reason why we kind of were bringing you on is because you're into kind of spooky stuff, and you said you had some spooky stories of your own. Another love of mine, particularly, is the awesome just like ghost things and things like that. I know you had kind of mentioned you have some stories, and we'll kind of just, dig into a few of those if you would like to share with us, or if you just want to talk about spooky stuff.
I have plenty of stories I can share. My parents, so I was born and raised in, I say Memphis, but actually Millington, which if a lot of people are military, especially Navy, they would know Millington, because it was the only inland Navy training base here in the U.S. So it was a school for a long time, and then they made it for commanders and admirals and all of that. But yeah, so my parents live in Millington, and the house that I grew up in is haunted. I don't ever remember it not being haunted. I think maybe 2 when I first started hearing. It started with the classic haunting. You hear footsteps in the attic, and there's there's nobody up there. I would hear it at night. Huh?
I said everyone hates that. You never want to hear anything.
You can hear it at night. And you know how parents are, they don't want their kids to be scared. But so they would say, oh, it's mice, it's whatever. No, it's not mice. It sounds like somebody walking in boots, and you can hear it. And it just paces back and forth, and then it'll stop. And then eventually it kind of escalated, and it moved down to the living room. And me and my sister and my brother, when my brother was living in the house, would hear it walk around in the living room like somebody, just natural, casual things. It almost sounded like somebody was going through and straightening up the house and straightening up, it kind of sounded like my mom. And then you would hear it walk down the hallway, and it would stop right by my sister and I's bedroom, turn around and walk back down the hallway. But we never saw anything. We would be staring into the hallway, and there you don't see a thing, but you could hear it coming towards you. And when you were 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and something like that happened, like that is the fear. I can't even describe the fear. And then one night, so it's mainly stuff like that, and it would get amped up around, it seemed like always around Christmas time, and then it would go dormant and there would be nothing. But we've woken up. My mom, now this is when my mom said she woke up one morning and went into the kitchen. Their washer and dryer, it's a small house, so their washer and dryer were in the kitchen at the time. And she said she woke up and she had laundry in the wash machine to be washed for the next day. But when she woke up that morning and went into the kitchen, the laundry had been taken out of the wash machine on the floor, and then just with like a loaf of bread on top of it.
Oh,
wow.
I have no idea. And she's just like, that's
I don't think
weird.
He knows how to do laundry.
Well, I mean, and it's things like that. And it's just like, well, why? I guess because, okay, so we know you're here type of thing, I guess. I don't know. But then we've seen pictures that have been turned upside down on the walls. My dad had an incident one night where my brother was working nights. And I tell you what, all of us kids ended up working nights because we couldn't stand it in the house. Like that was one of the reasons. Right. That was one of the reasons why we all ended up working night shift, because none of us wanted to be in the house.
Yeah.
But my brother was working nights for AutoZone, stocking and all that. And
I was going to say, were they the only AutoZone open 24 hours? People are going in to buy batteries.
No. He would work. He would work overnight and restock.
Why are you guys open? My house is haunted, and I don't want to be there.
Yeah, I'm not going home.
I don't want to go home.
Yeah, you need a carburetor.
I'll sell you a carburetor. Please don't make me go back to that house. But the thing is it was never like, it never felt evil or malicious or, none of us were slung across, nothing like that. It was just random stuff. But anyway, my dad got up one night because he thought he heard my brother come home. My brother would come home around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And my dad would make him a plate, put it in the fridge, and my brother would come home. And well, Dad got up because he heard Sean, my brother, go into the kitchen. He heard the refrigerator door open and close, and just kind of casual sounds. So Dad was like, he must not have found it. I'll go tell him. And Dad gets up, goes into the living room, and by this time we've named this thing the walker. That's because that's what it does. It just walks.
Super terrifying.
Dad gets up. I know. Now that I say it out loud, I'm just like, that's kind of a creepy name. But anyway, so Dad gets up, goes into the living room, and everything, all the lights are out. My brother's not home. And so Dad's just like, oh, shit. Okay. And he's sitting there and he flips the light on real quick in the living room. And he's like, I'm in here with the walker now. I can't. Okay. And so he was like reaching over to turn the light off so he could run down the hallway real quick and get in bed. But yeah, so he was, he had that incident, and then he's seen shadow people, which when he first told me that story, I thought he was I was like, whatever. Why would it? If he said it, the way he explained it to me is he got up one night and there was a dark shadow figure standing in the dining room by the window. And he said it looked like the comic book, The Shadow. It looked like it had a cape and the fedora. So it was like Hat Man.
Yeah, yeah.
And
but like fantastic.
Everybody talks about, if you take enough Benadryl. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get the Hat Man.
If you take enough Benadryl, you'll see Hat Man. He wasn't on Benadryl. He was wide awake. He said he was just walking in to go get him, water or whatever, and it was just standing there.
Yeah.
And that freaked him out.
It always these stories are always like cool. I find them actually terrifying when they find out there is actually somebody hiding in their house, like for real. I've heard stories.
You're like, I wish it was just a ghost. It's not.
I know.
It's more scary that there's actually a real person there.
Yeah, so this one girl was like, so for months she heard like something in her attic kind of walking around. She would tell her parents like, oh, whatever, like you're being crazy. And then like she would notice things like out when she would come home, like she was a lock key kid. And then she would do all that, and then she'd be like, oh, this is weird, like stuff just moved around. And then they found the people who used to live there, one of their sons got out of the mental institution and just like found this little cubby in their attic, like completely new people, and just like tucked himself away, and he's been living there for months. And then he had plans to kill the family because they found like a knife and asked him and stuff. But for some reason it's like, and then this one person found there was like this she's like, one time I looked in the grate in my room and there was a face behind it, and then when she came back to show her parents, and they obviously wasn't there. And months later, they found out there was like a hobo living in their freaking walls. Like,
yeah, I've heard. Yeah, what do they call it? Frogging? The frogging stories where people will break into people's houses that have these big houses, and they go in and they just find a space, and when the person leaves for work, they come out and they get food, and then they go back and
so
some
scary.
of them don't have ill intent, but that's still creepy as hell.
Yeah,
I know you don't want anybody in your house.
What was that movie out a couple years ago? It was a South Korean movie. It won the Academy Award for everything.
Oh, Parasite.
So Parasite, where the guy was living in the basement. Sorry, spoiler out there.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. Sorry, sorry, spoiler. but really, really good movie though. It's surprisingly super funny too. Like even though it's like subtitles, I was just like, this is like landing. It's very funny. Anyway. Yeah. That's wild though. Like okay.
There was a movie on Netflix that was like that, where it was people that were frogging in these people's houses, but the girl that was living in the attic space or between the walls or whatever saw the husband murder the wife's boyfriend because he found out she was cheating. And so then these people are like, oh, what do we do? Because we're not even supposed to, what are we going to go to the police and say, oh, by the way, this guy committed a murder. I saw it, but I've been living illegally in his house, in his house. And it was actually a really good movie. I can't remember the name of it.
It's like telling your drug dealer that he ripped you off. Telling the cops that your drug dealer ripped you off.
Right. But yeah.
Oh my God. That's wild. What was it about?
But yeah, it was never anybody in our house.
Frogging also sounds like something you would ask your girlfriend to do late at night. I feel like if I looked it up in Urban Dictionary, it would tell me something.
Yeah. I don't know why they call it that. Just call it house hopping. Frogging.
Yeah. I mean, anyway, it's like couch surfing, but you're frogging. You're being all slippery. You're being all slippery and adorable.
Or if you're not hiding and you're doing it, it's called squatting, which also sounds like it could be something totally different as well.
Yeah. Maybe most hobo terms are just like there's a slight flip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right. Man. Hanging out.
So was everything that you had, the haunting wise, was it just isolated to your house there outside of Memphis? Or did you have anything
Oh,
else?
no.
Or it was all.
No, I think so. I think when you're in a situation like that, especially at a young age, because I experienced it when, like I said, the first memory was when I was about 2 or so. I think it kind of opens that door.
Mm-hmm.
So I have stuff that happens to me all the time. My sister and I have stuff that happened to us all the time. Like for a long time, we would call ourselves the vortex of strange coincidence because we would have all these little bitty synchronicities that would happen that were just weird. But no, I think it opens the door so I'm sensitive to those things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
William was born with it, like he's super sensitive to those things. So I think I don't know. I don't know if it's us as a family because we're all kind of tapped into that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, there's stuff that
Yeah.
happens here at this house. William sees things. I don't necessarily see things. I just know they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can feel them.
Yeah, and I've heard that before with people where, when they've had experiences like that, and not so much like the same particular ghost follows them around. There's that as well, but they're like you said, you're just more sensitive to it. You kind of pick up on those things when they're around, and you're just kind of more enlightened to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I when I worked in the ER, because everybody asks me about working in the ER and do you see things in the emergency room, and I never really paid attention because it was such a high stress environment. I could get those feelings from people that would come in and be like, I don't like this person, and that's usually how I am. Like if your energy's off, there's something I don't
Yeah.
But you kind of I kind of shut it down when I worked in the emergency room because I did have people coming up to me and I would have to help them, and I would have to, I couldn't be like, I don't like your energy. You're going to lay on the gurney and bleed out. I'm just, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
like, why did he die? Be like, the vibes are off, man. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
So it's
that whole Hippocratic oath thing, where you have to, promise to help
you have
people.
to help people even when their vibes are off.
Regardless. Even if their energy's off.
I mean, I always like, I was talking, I keep talking about like people like witches and stuff because they're like super fun to like talk to, because they always just like they work on vibes and I just dig it so hard. They're just like, and they're always like talk very, very cool about like regular things. They're like, oh yeah, like, I don't know. It was just the moonbeams are just totally off this week. And I'm like, hell yeah. Let's talk about that. I just thought it was sad. It's such a vibe. But
see,
go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just vamping. You're good. I didn't have the story.
See, my thing was, I shut it down for a long time, and me and my sister would have these weird things. Me and my sister, one of the reasons why we started playing with the Ouija board when we moved out was to find out what it was in my parents' house. But then we opened up this whole can of worms in our own house, and to this day, that house is just like, it is Grand Central Station for the spirits. They just come in and out and rearrange stuff and walk out. And my sister's just like, as long as you're not negative, I don't care.
Yeah. Is this in the house that you're in now, or what house was this at?
This is my sister's house, which is literally next door to my parents' house.
I gotcha.
So we ended up, so me and my sister moved, but we didn't really move. We just literally moved next door to my parents because it was cheap rent. And so we ended up, and my father would never let us play with Ouija boards ever because we were raised Pentecostal. It didn't work. But so we ended up getting a Ouija board to find out what was in the house, and we never got an answer. spirit or whatever you want to call it that we were talking to on the Ouija board was like, yeah, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Do y'all not, but I don't think it works like that. Like,
yeah, they weren't like, oh yeah, that's Greg. I know that guy. He's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart, don't talk to Stuart.
Yeah. Don't talk to him. No, he's just like, no, I don't know what that is. And we're like, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. Do you think, like, the only thing that would scare me about a ghost in my house is like, listen, my day-to-day, especially when I'm alone, is me being maybe just a weirdo at my house. Just like, I don't know. It's very risky business at my house, like when I'm alone. Like it's dancing around, it's singing loud, it's being a weirdo. It's this, but like by myself, which is just like 10 times this, and I'm just like, oh my god, and just laughing out loud for no reason, screaming for no reason, remembering something from when I was a kid. Does anybody else do the thing where like you remember something you did as a kid and you just yell? Does anybody do that? Where just like you remember that you
I
like
have.
You have, yeah. So Brian, if you're not a weirdo, basically like you'll remember something stupid you did when you were a child that like makes you cringe now, and you go like, because you get the verbally like,
oh, God.
You're like,
yeah,
why did I do that?
I mean, I definitely, from time to time you remember something where you're like, oh yeah, that was cringe, but like I don't like yell about it, I just like move on.
Yeah.
Like I don't really focus on it.
Well, you're a very 10 and 2 guy, like so I'm a creep.
Is it an ADHD thing? Is it an ADHD thing that we do that? Because I'll remember, like all of a sudden it'll just hit me and I'll be like,
wham,
I do that. Yeah. Why?
Yeah. Be like,
and
remember you tripped in front of your crush? And you're just like, oh, why? Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I mean, like the only thing that would really, really bug me is that like I'm just like never alone. But like I mean, I don't understand like what I mean, a scary ghost can't really do anything to you except for like be scary in your house, but you're like, if you're used to it, I guess you'd be like, all right, chill out. But I've never been haunted before. I've never experienced anything except for like a drape that shouldn't have moved when it did. So and that's not scary. That's just drapery. I don't know. But have you seen anything that's like okay.
When I was little, do you remember the Muppet Babies cartoon?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can sing the whole theme song right now if you want.
Okay.
That's
so
what Dave thinks about when
Saturday
he gets cringy.
Saturday mornings, I would get up early because they came on fairly early on Saturdays, and I had a bunk bed. And this was another thing, my parents. I was so adamant about it. I knew that the house was haunted, but anyway, so I ended up making them I wanted bunk beds so I could sleep on the top bunk because in my little brain I was thinking if I'm in the top bunk, it can't get me. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and
I get up early.
More room for activities, in your room itself.
Yeah.
So in the morning, I get down, I wake up, and I climb down the little ladder, and I go and turn on my little black and white TV to watch Muppet Babies, and I think Fraggle Rock or whatever it was that came on prior to it was still on, and it was still kind of the sun was like I got up early. It was I don't know 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that. And I climbed back up in the bunk bed, and the way the bunk bed was is where my head was to the wall. I could kind of see down our hallway, and like I said, it's a small house. I could see down the hallway, and it's like my parents' room, and then the bathroom's next, and you could see the light kind of coming up in the living room from the sun. And I noticed a shadow in the hallway, and I kept looking at it, and it was just a black shadow, but it was all hunched over like this, and it was just kind of doing this back and forth, rocking back and forth. It reminded me, the first thing I thought of was it reminded me of the Morlocks in Time Machine, the original Time Machine movie. The blue guys that would sound the horn, and they would take the what I'm talking about, and they were kind of almost it was almost ape-like in how it was shaped, and
That's
it was
wild.
just kind of doing this like back and forth, and it was just a shadow. I screamed bloody murder and woke up the whole house because it freaked me out so bad. That was like one of the few times I had a physical reaction to something that was, going on in the house, because I'd never seen anything. I'd always hear it and,
Yeah.
movement and all that, but actually seeing something, and I don't know, to this day, I don't know what that was, but to think about it, it still kind of freaks me out.
Hate that. That's freaking
Yeah,
terrifying.
yeah. I think that happened. My sister, huh?
What was the size? Like, what are we talking? Are we talking like the size of like a big chair, or?
I mean, it
Like
was like gorilla size, like a
Oh yeah,
silverback
you did say
gorilla
that.
size. The way, like if a gorilla, not standing up, but like if a gorilla was kind of hunched
Wild.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, it had I could see that definition of it, and just the way that's how it moved too. I don't know what that was, but I screamed, and my dad came running in there, and of course he's half asleep, and he's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, there was something standing, and oh, you baby, it was just a bad dream. It was just, and I'm like, I know I'm awake because I climbed down the little ladder to turn my TV on and climb back. I'm awake. Like, I didn't fall
Yeah.
back asleep. So
I always wonder, like, if ghosts are a mimic of humans, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, what are we doing there? Like, or if it's just a ghost that's like, what if I was a gorilla? Like, it's just being a beast instead.
Well, William will see things in this house that are not, they're not human. They're human-like in form, but they're almost always black. Some of them are kind of a dark, smoky gray. And I'll tell you what, one of the things, when we went to the first Monster Fest, when we first met, and you were you saw me leaving out of the podcast room for Astonishing Legends.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was leaving because I had gone, and when I was listening, and there was a woman telling a story about generational hauntings or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember that story.
Yeah, I
She
remember.
was telling Scott and Forrest about it. And I had to leave when she was telling the story, because I could sense that whatever it was that she was talking about, it was on her, it was attached to her. It was an attachment. It was on her left side over here on her back. And it wasn't good. And I could, in my head, I heard, you need to leave before it sees William. Like all of that, I just heard that in my like my right ear. So I left, and that's what I was doing when I passed you. And I was like, oh, it's hot in there. I don't, because I didn't know.
Yeah, I thought you left because it was 1,000 degrees in there. It was so hot.
No, yeah. And because I was just kind of in a zone. I was like listening to her, but I was kind of focused on it. And I just had that warning, you need to leave before it sees William. And I was like, okay, not going to do that anymore. So I turned around and I left. And one of the reasons why I ended up that's how me and Jill became friends, was because I wanted to help William. I was afraid for him because he was actually seeing these things. I can tell you whether they're there or not. I can kind of sense them, but I don't actually see them. He does. And he calls them peekers, and they peek around the corner and peek back. Peek around the corner and peek back.
Oh, I hate that so much. I hate that so much.
It's not.
It's so scary.
And he said one of them looked like it was on a marionette, like it was on strings, and the way it
don't like that. Don't like that at all.
That's even worse.
No, thank you on peekers and nightmare marionettes in my house. Correction,
so,
that's scarier than a hobo.
I know. So I don't know, but these things that, but anyways, that's one of the reasons why I kind of just got back into my witchcraft and spirituality and all of that to help him, to protect him, because I didn't want this to drive him crazy. I didn't want him to feel the fear that I felt when I was little. And I didn't want to gaslight him and tell him, oh, it's a bad dream. It's your imagination. I've heard overactive imagination so many times from my parents that, it's like, no, I'm not this creative with some of the stuff they come up with.
Yeah. And then on top of that, if you had talked about how you could sense the stuff, but yet he's seeing these things, it's even, more amplified for him. The last thing you want to do is, kind of poo-poo his situation and that kind of stuff.
Right. But the way I see them is what I get from them is that they're not, because you always hear whatever ghost shows you're on, and depending on the person's, I guess, if they're religious or not, but you always hear demons, they're demons. And these are not, they're not human, but they're not demons. They're more of elementals, or they control. They're like wild animals, basically.
Okay.
That's how I see.
Yeah. Are they like? Would you say maybe they're more like the mischief kind of makers of like whatever that would be?
They can be, yeah.
Hey, you know what'd be scary if I was a marionette person? They'd be like, yeah, you should do that. That would be hilarious. And then
what? And see, that's what I told William. I was like, tell them that you don't like it, that they scare you, that you don't like that. Because I ended up, so I'd come back and I would end up, blessing the house and saging the house and putting all the wards around the house. And I'm like, I don't have any problems with you, but don't scare my son. If you're negative, you've got to go. You can't be here, but stop scaring my son, because that's not
ruin the fun for them.
No, I know. Like, now the mischievousness though, I get, but so I told William, I was like, well, let's just give them a job, because they're much more, they're like nature spirits. Like they're, like, again, wild animals. It's gray energy. It's neutral energy. It's not bad. It's not good. Depending on the type of energy you feed them, you are what you eat. Like if you're a negative person, they're going to feed off that energy. If you're a positive person, they're going to be a positive influence. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that's how I see it.
That makes sense. They feed off the energy you're putting out. I
Right.
like Care Bears as demons.
Well, it's like it's like wild animal. It's like my geese. Everybody hates Canadian geese. They think they're the meanest damn things that have ever walked the earth. I go out there and I feed them, and they let me pet them. And I've had little goose hugs before. I don't go out there swinging at them and like, trying to popping off guns or whatever to scare them off. I feed them and I take care of them. And guess what? They give me this positive, and they bring their babies to me. That's what I really wanted. They bring their little babies to me.
I love that.
So it's kind of the same. It's the same concept. If you go into it and you're negative and you go in swinging, and you gotta, it's not gonna be positive for you. It'll make it worse. So I just gave them a job. I said, protect the house, protect my animals outside, protect my son, and
maybe they are like a herding dog. Like herding dogs get real pent up if you don't like work them out and like give them a job. They just like need something to do, and they're just like, I guess I'll mess with this little boy. And it's just like, hey, could you just protect the house? Oh, that's something I can do. He just runs around. He's like, oh.
I tell you what, ever since I did it, he doesn't see them as much anymore. The only thing we see is we have a big black shadow cat that walks across all I've seen is a typical cat, because all I see is its butt and its tail as it's rounding the corner. But I don't have a black cat. I have a white cat and I have a brown cat, but I don't have a black cat. And it's not that, and they're not, it's pretty tall for a cat. But yeah, that's all I see that's all we see. Patrolling the house.
That's so rad. You got your own little like dog man just kind of walking or whatever, cat man, I guess. Little beast walking around.
Well, you have your own petting zoo of of real live animals, and then you actually that have other animals that are walking in a different plane of existence.
I guess so. I mean, now most of them at least stay outside. They don't come in and scare William half to death anymore. But yeah, other than or they just manifest as animals in the house because they know that's not scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just remember, if you're cold, they're cold. Bring them inside.
Don't tell me that because I will. I have between the possum and the raccoons and the
You live
thank
in Florida.
God we don't really. Well, it's down to 30. It will get below freezing every once in a while. And then I'll
get in here, blood beast. Get in here.
Meanwhile, where we're at, we're like, it's going to be up to 30 today.
Yeah.
Hey, look, y'all can move down here if you want to. I did not choose to live up north. Thanks.
No, we are. No, you're in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just everything about that place just makes me hot.
Well, so we're in Pensacola. We're actually in Gulf Breeze.
Sounds delicious.
So we're kind of more like Southern Alabama. You know what I mean? Like we're just kind of so we're not. I think a lot of Floridians don't consider us Floridians because we're we're in the Panhandle.
You got a shirt. You got a shirt on. Is that why you're not packing a gun?
You don't have meth mouth.
We do kind of pick on a certain cryptid every week, and we just want to let Skunk Cake know you suck and you don't. You deserve everything you got.
The Florida skunk ape is our arch nemesis.
For no reason.
What do you guys have? The grass man?
Yeah, the grass man. We have quite a few actually, but I can't remember specific. I mean, we have half of the Mothman, I guess, because he did take our bridge, technically our bridge as well. So, but I guess we don't really get him because he's right across the river. But what else do we have? We have like a ton. I just can't think of it right now.
We have, your typical Bigfoot, and I actually was going to bring this up down the road because I knew we were going to be kind of full today. But I was, playing around on the BFRO website, and there's at least on their website 3 documented Bigfoot sightings in Lorain County where we live.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
There's been an uptick in them because they
weren't recent, but they're documented on their website.
Gatlinburg, Tennessee. There's been a few.
I can see it there. I mean, that place is super squatchy. Like it's so dense forests and everything. Yeah, that place is cool.
That's wild. Wait, Lorain County.
And there was there was another place too that had Bigfoot sightings recently, but I don't remember. I don't remember what it was, but it does seem like there's been an uptick. And I remember my dad always saying that. He was like, if people start seeing a lot of UFOs, then you're going to see the uptick in like Bigfoot and all and I was just like, whatever, they don't have anything to do with one another. And of course now I'm like, you were right, Dad. You were right.
Yeah. The thing that I always kind of hear is that like it's all connected and related. Like it's just you get all of it. Like you don't just get one. You get like you get a UFO, then you get a Bigfoot, then you get some weird shadow creature, and then you get like I don't know, like a dog man or something. And it's all just weird stuff. And it's just like it's like a care package. It's like here's some nightmares for you. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun with this one. Try to figure. I don't know. I think it's like I don't know. Something's messing with us, and it's just like try to figure this one out, and it's just kind of throwing shit at us.
It's so like their ground team. It's what's it called when there's like the scream team? They're just like, all right, Bigfoot, get on out there. It's like, they're like, send a UFO. There's a guy with like the headphones on with like the thing. He's like, all right, send in the UFO. Like, too much, down.
Yeah, it's like their own little Suicide Squad. Yeah, they're all working together.
Honestly, I want to see that movie. Anybody who's making movies in here, make that movie. I want to see just like a little based
on the chat. like Greg is says he's filming in Gatlinburg soon, so maybe he can make our cryptid Suicide Squad film.
Yeah, make it happen. Can I be the ragtag guy who doesn't play by the rules? You know what? And then I put my sunglasses on and always kind of like bring them down a little bit.
Squad.
Cryptid Squad, just like Monster Squad. Wolfman's got nards. That movie, oh my god,
Wow.
it was my Goonies as a kid. It doesn't hold up as much as the Goonies, but like it's still freaking amazing. But I would love to see that with like Bigfoot and Mothman, and then maybe Mothman's just like the only thing he says is like his name, just like Groot. He'd be like Mothman. I would love that. And then Bigfoot's just like he's like what is it? Like Smart Hulk. He's like that. He's like, guys, get it together. We have to do this. Guys, let's write this movie now.
I think we're well on our way,
Yeah, we already have two characters.
I would think Mothman would be more like a Batman type character. Very stoic and quiet and just,
he doesn't say anything, but then like when he finally does, you're just like, whoa, he knew what was going on the whole time.
It's like standing over in the corner with like a brooding look on his face, like he's always a top
very
of
judgy.
Why do I always have to be the dad?
Yeah,
very, very judgy.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen the Penguin series?
Fantastic.
We did talk about that last night or last week. We talked about it. It's so good. We're on the last episode right now, so don't spoil anything for me. But like we caught up. I'm slow to watch things because I just don't watch that much TV. And my wife goes to bed early because she's people's all day, and she's like, I'm good. I'm going to bed. I'm like, but you want to watch something? So I ended up just watching like the same 9 things that everybody's watched, just like in the background, or play video games.
I tell you what, Arcane on Netflix. Have y'all ever played League of Legends?
No.
Oh my god, it's so good.
And I
binged it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did you binge it? I binged it Sunday, the first season, which I'd already seen, but it had been so long in between seasons. So I binged it Sunday to watch the first season to refresh my memory. And then they're only dropping
it's beautifully
three episodes every Saturday, I think.
Oh, really?
So,
the new
for
season?
the second season. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
so we watched the first 3 episodes. I
actually watched the first 2 episodes, and I was just kind of like, okay, like I kind of got what this is. Like, it didn't really like hook me. And then like I kind of like I went back to it at one point, and I watched the first 2 episodes again. I was like, oh, I really want to watch this because I heard it was so good, but like it never dug its claws into me. And then I kind of gave it a third shot because I was like, there's no way, like just fucking put it on. So I put it on and I watched it, and I was just like, and then I got to episode like 3, and I was just like, oh. And then I got to 4, and I was like, oh, it's so good. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing show.
When I originally watched it, I was the same way because I think Alex and William were watching it, and I was like, oh, okay. And because I like Jinx, I've always liked Jinx, and the League of Legends, the video game, and just the trailers that they come out with their new characters, and the music that they use for those characters, because they each have like their own little signature song.
Ooh.
I thought was basically, but I thought it was brilliant, and I've always liked Jinx because she's kind of a Harley Quinn type character.
Yeah.
But when you watch the series and then you realize, oh, she's like 10 times worse than Harley. Like she is beyond crazy. Like she's nuts, but she's still one of my favorites.
I like the graffiti graphics they use and everything in that show where it feels very like kind of brush and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I really love that. So keep it squatchy, Greg.
See you, Greg.
Out of here. We have a chat going if you didn't know that, Ton. Just so you know.
Do what?
There's a chat going on, just so you know, they're like in the background.
Oh yeah, I see it now. I see it now because somebody had written Gulf Breeze UFOs. I actually did see one for the very first time. I had to send it to Jill because I was like, "What is this? Mm-hmm. What am I looking at?" And she goes, "That seems like because it didn't have any wings. It was just kind of like the white It looked like a Tic Tac. I mean, it looked like what they would describe as Tic Tac. And I was trying to, now I know why people are shaky when they're trying to video UFOs, because they move so damn fast you can't keep the camera on it. That's why it's like, because I'm like, and I told Jill, I was like, I swear to God, I'm not shaking, but it kept going, boop, 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 you know, and I'm like, be
like trying to
still.
track it.
Please be still. And then I was trying to track it, and then all of a sudden it was over here, and I was like, well, shit. And I zoomed in, and it's like, I'll send you the video. It's like a, I don't know. It's like a little white Tic Tac. And then it kind of went off, and I was like, what was I doing? I had stepped around our tree because it kind of went out of my view. So I stepped back so I could see it, and it was just it was gone at that time. So,
and you always kind of gotta think about, like, you ever try to take a picture of the moon? You're like, wow, this moon looks awesome. And then you bring your phone up and it's like this big. You're like, oh,
yes,
this is,
and it sucks.
I'm not,
yeah.
You just like give up. You're like, I'm not taking a picture of that. It looks like nothing.
Yeah.
And then you like take your phone away and you're like, it's magnificent. What is the deal? So I wonder if it's something.
The other night we were driving home. It was last week when we went and saw the new Gladiator movie, and the moon was so low in the horizon, and it was like a half moon. It looked like it was crashing into the horizon, and it was like enormous, and it was so cool. And like I tried to take a picture of it, and it was like, it doesn't even look cool in the picture, but like in person, you're like, this is insane, you know.
Every time I've tried to, the big super moon that we had last, the big, was it in October, the hunter's moon or whatever, I tried to take a picture of it, and it looks like a damn street light.
Yeah.
I mean, it was huge and gorgeous, and I take the picture, and I'm like, well, never mind.
You're
like, not showing this to
anybody. Like, it's not even worth showing anybody.
Yeah.
It was
You're like, I wouldn't
disappointing.
even. It's like the audio on a concert, you know, like if you're like filming it, like you're just like, oh, this sounds terrible. I don't know. Yeah. But so you saw a UFO? That's cool.
And I'm always, because Alex will stand out there with me, and I'm like, ooh, what's that? And he's like, that's a satellite. Ooh, what's that? That's an airplane. And I'm like, okay. Ooh, what's that? And he's like, that's a drone. All right. But this was weird because it wasn't dark, and there were no lights on it. It was white and kind of reflective, you know. So that's what caught my attention, because I was like, what is that? And of course my husband went with me, you know. So I'm like, I'm going to get a video of it. And then I scanned in, and I was like, there's no wings on that, because I really did think it was like a plane. But then it started doing all its weird, you know, all over the place. And I'm like, holy shit, can you please stay still so I can film you, so people will believe me that I'm actually seeing this right now? And then it goes behind, you know, out of my line of vision. So it's just 2 seconds to put my phone down to step around the tree, and the damn thing's gone. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
do you
that's
live
cool.
next to the ocean? Do you live next to the ocean?
I do. I do. Actually, I do. We have the Sound and the Gulf just right over there.
You know, like we were saying earlier, they come from the ocean.
And I love back at the hearing, the one guy kept calling, instead of TikTok, which is what they call the one video in which you've described it as, he kept calling, Tic Tac. He kept calling it TikTok. It was like the TikTok video, and I'm like, it's Tic Tac. It's Tic Tac. It's not the TikTok. It's a totally different thing. Yeah,
he's like the mint. Yeah, we do. We live close to the Sound and the Gulf, but there are people. I mean, I know y'all are aware. Let me tell you something. When we moved here, I had no idea Gulf Breeze was a UFO hotspot, or I probably would have not moved here. I didn't, because I was never into them. I was never. I mean, I liked the stories and all of that, but it wasn't like Ghost and Bigfoot, and I really want to see a Bigfoot one day. But it wasn't anything, you know. So I wasn't like, I just wasn't interested. But I'd heard the stories, and I mean, I read Communion, and unfortunately, so that was scary. Fire in the Sky. I'm watching it way too young. But I was never like super fascinated with them. And my husband and I were looking at houses when we had first come down here, And I saw a UFO poster hanging up in a house that we were looking at, and I'm like, oh, cool, he likes UFOs. And she's like, oh, did you not know? And I'm like, no, what? And she's like, Gulf Breeze, it's a real big UFO hotspot. And I'm like, what? And Alex is like, oh, Jesus Christ. No, might as well just go back home to Memphis because I don't think she's going to live here now. I don't want to be abducted. But,
oh man, that's
yeah,
cool. I was
about
unaware of that. Well, now you know why, because they live down there. I think
Yeah.
they can both be from up and then down. So it's great that we're just surrounded by them. And actually, the coolest bar that I heard the whole time that somebody said was they've been here longer than we've been around. And I'm just like, oh, wait, first off, how do you know that? Second off, that's so rad. Are you saying that we're the aliens?
Yeah.
Did we come here illegally?
Well, I know now now how the tables have turned.
Yeah.
I told William that, and William is very, as much as he experiences, the kid is very science minded on things. And I told him, I was like, they said that they were here. They've been here longer than we've been around. And he's like, I just don't see how that's possible. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because that would just mean, and I was like, oh no. I said, what if we're their children?
Oh,
and he's like, Mom, don't even go there. And I'm like, what if we're their kids? Like we mutated or something.
That is, kind of the prevailing theory, the ancient alien theory,
I wonder if they're as disappointed in us as I am.
Yeah.
They're just like, what did you do? They're like, we have a system of money that we like that, when they're like, well, what's money? And they're like, oh, it's a thing to pay for stuff. They're like, why? And we're like, because you need to give people stuff to get stuff. Be like, but the food's on the ground. It's like, yeah, but you got to pay for it. It's like, it's on the ground. I put it everywhere. It's everywhere. What are you talking about? Yeah. What is it? What's the money worth? We're like, we said it was worth something. It's like, no. Not say it. Like, you made it up. They just start breaking down our system. We're like, wait. Like, you guys ever had those mushrooms that we sent everywhere?
I had this weird little panic anxiety attack last night, and I'm just like, who makes the rules? Like, they're just people. They're just men, and they sit up there and they make the rules and they tell us we have to pay this, and this. Says who? Why do you have a over me? I don't understand that mindset. Like, why am I paying property tax on land that I've bought over and over and over again, apparently from you? Like, we buy it every year, so we have to pay property tax every year. Like, it makes no sense. Like, and I just had a complete and total, and of course, Alex is just like, do you need a margarita? You want me to go get you some tacos and a margarita? And I'm like, yeah, I think that would make me feel a little bit better.
I always say that rules are made by very boring people, because the reason why we have to get up early to go to work is because the most boring person in our life is like a morning person. And he's like, yeah, I just start my day at 6 a.m. and I go to work, and that's what I like to do. And she's like, yeah, but we want to sleep in. Be like, well, I'm already awake, so you have to be awake too. And it's like you can't combat him because he's already awake and doing the work, and then you feel like a dickhead, and you're like, well, I guess I'll work too because he said I had to be here and he's already awake. So you just like, and then all the it's like, we gotta pay for this. Be like, why? Be like, because I said so. We've already started doing it. Oh god, yeah, it's all fake and made up.
I mean, I understand. Don't harm others. Don't do that. I understand that, but all this other stuff, this society that we've built for, and this is this rule and this is that rule, and you've got to do this and you've got to do. Says who? Like, why? I don't understand it because and then don't even get me started on. Well, God said, never met him. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, a bunch of people said that a long time ago, and they're all dead now.
Right. So
Yeah. The thing that I always get kind of hung up on right now is specifically just like the way like money progress works. It's like you always kind of have to build on like the like last year's money, and stuff. It's just like, why are we trying so hard? Like, what are we trying to achieve here? Like, everything's like, if things are working like a well-oiled machine, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Like, unless you're going to figure out a machine that fixes the fact that I have to do laundry every night, I don't want to hear from you. So like, you know, at the end of the day, like, we're just making rich people richer. So it's just like, who cares about that? Like, that's not my goal. My goal is to make top dollars here. I'm just here to, like, you know, have some fun, tell some stories, meet some cool people. And if I achieve that in my lifetime, I can die happy. You know, high five my kids, dance in the living room alone with the ghost watching. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's a weird dichotomy.
I had right before Alex and I got married, Alex and I had just started dating, and I was on my way to work one night, and I ended up getting hit. I don't know, I may have told you guys this. I ended up getting hit by a drunk driver head on while I was heading to work. And
What?
yeah, I was hit head on by a drunk driver. I saw him coming around the corner, and I saw him far enough ahead to where, because honey, I was booking it because I was late for work. I was going about 65, 70. And so I saw him and I stopped the car and kind of pulled over. It's 2-lane highway. And I had people behind me, and I put on my emergency blinkers. I had enough time to do all that to try to avoid him hitting me, but he still ended up hitting me. Like, that's the only time he drove in a straight line, was when he was coming towards me. And after, it was one of those things where I saw him and I'm like, this son of a bitch is going to hit me. And it was one of those moments where I was like, well, I'm either going to make it through it or I'm not. You know, this can only go two ways. Got 50-50 chance. Either I'm going to survive it or I'm not.
Yeah.
And after he hit me, and it was so quiet, and I realized, first thing I did, this tells you how weird I am. First thing I did is I checked to make sure I had all my teeth, and I wasn't impaled with anything. That was like the first two things I did.
Makes sense.
Then I was like, oh, thank God, I'm not impaled. I'm not missing my teeth. But then the car was smoking, and then another onset of, holy shit, the car's on fire. And so a guy had come up and to the my side of the window, and he's like, I've got to get you out of here. The car's on fire. Or he's like, the car's smoking. I'm not real sure where that, I don't know if it's on fire or whatever. And I couldn't open my door because my car was so messed up, and my foot was stuck because the firewall had pushed up through the floor of the car, and my foot, which was still on the brake, was in between all the metal and my foot was still on the brake, and all that was built up. And he's like, you've got to get your foot unstuck. You got to, he took out like the whole plate of my window, like the glass, took it all out. And got my foot unstuck, and he carried me out. And anyways, after that, it was one of those things where after the immediate accident, it was like a slap in the face to me. It was like I was asleep during my life before, and then all of a sudden I was awake. If you know what I mean? Like, I was so, because all I did was eat, sleep, go to work, start it all over. Eat, sleep, go to work, start it all over. And I was a pretty negative person. Now, keep in mind, I was working in the emergency room too. That's going to do, anytime you're working in any kind of emergency situation, whether it's ER, police, firemen, whatever, it's a lot of stress. And it makes you see the worst in everybody. But it really was a slap in the face. It was like I was asleep my whole life, and now I'm awake. And at that point, I made the decision, okay, I got out of this with just a broken ankle. I'm not going to live my life just to work and pay bills. So I want to go and have fun. I want to go and do my spooky stuff. I want to go and meet my spooky friends and talk about ghosts and what have you.
You had your second chance.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And I was just like, I'm not going to be negative anymore. I'm going to be, I mean, I'm still kind of negative, but I'm sarcastic. I'm not negative.
Just regular negative.
Yeah, I'm a normal negative, but I wasn't as pessimistic as I was back then. But yeah,
how long ago?
so it'll be 18, 19. It's about 19 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, about 19 years ago.
That's wild. Yeah.
Because Alex and I had just started dating.
Oh, okay. And you got out of there unscathed, like besides just
my ankle was crushed. My ankle was completely crushed. Part of my little ankle bone that survived it was like down in my heel that they had to pull up and redo all that. I had like a external, the halos that they put on people. I had one on my leg.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, hey man,
that was fun.
If you had to crush your ankle just to follow your passions of like what life's all about and finding spooky people like me and Brian and all of our friends over at over the AL group and online and stuff, sometimes you gotta sacrifice an ankle from time to time, and as long as you don't walk funny now, I think you're okay.
That's right. I don't have a lump. I don't have, I could tell you when it's about to rain, because then I'm like, oh God, my ankle is so sore. It's about to sound like a 90-year-old meemaw in Appalachia.
I have that with my knees are like that. I'm just like, oh, it's gonna rain today.
Yeah. Yeah, I could feel it. But yeah, that was my wake up call. That was my wake up call to just enjoy life for what it is and try not to worry about all the other, do what you enjoy. Try not to worry about all this other shit going on, because shit, I mean,
Yeah. Listen, it's never gonna stop. I heard a great thing today that was just like, you really can't do anything about it. Like all the stuff that's at the top right now, like whatever bad decisions, depending on where you're at, mentally, it's just like you can't do anything about it. So worry about the people that you have, worry about the things that you can control, be as positive as you can in the moments that you're allowed to be. I'm obviously a very positive person. That's just where I'm at, but I always try to draw that energy from life and be like, let's do the fun thing. Let's talk about weird stuff, and have fun. So I'm glad that you found your little truth in there. It sucks that a truck driver had to hit you for it, but sometimes you need to be shaken to life as opposed to just kind of nudged.
It really was. I mean, it was like a slap in the face. And I don't know. I mean, I guess people couldn't account for, well, it was the adrenaline, but I mean, I don't know. It was just like I was sleeping the whole time. So I'm not doing this anymore. Because I mean, had I died, I was like, for what? For bills? For going to work and bills? And, people cussing me out because I can't get them back fast enough because of their fucking cyst on their ass.
Yeah. Well, that's just the way it goes. I don't know. But all right, well, I'm gonna end on a positive note, and that was fantastic. And so well, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for sharing all your stories. You're welcome to come back and share more as you want, and just hang out with me and Brian. Or the the great Brian Dito. Yeah, so this has been Monster Soup. I appreciate everybody who's been here with us. If you're joining us on Friday, hopefully Mike Tyson just knocked Jake Paul right on the floor, but we'll see how it goes. We'll find out in 2 hours. If you're joining us live. If not, maybe I'll eat my words and everybody's like, man, I'm real sad.
I think the fix is in on that one.
Yeah, the fix will probably be in, but a man can hope and a man can dream. So if you have a strange story and you want to talk with us about it, monstersoupodcast@gmail.com. If you want to look at some cool art, Mischief Factory on the interwebs. We also have a Facebook page where I just post the episode up, and I wish I did more with it, but it's Facebook and I don't really care. But it's a Monster Soup Podcast on Facebook. Leave your comments and talk about some weird stuff and tell me what you thought about the episode, and tell me how handsome we all are and pretty.
and everybody in the chat, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we appreciate you, and thanks for joining us. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you so much.
See ya.
Thank you. All right, bye,
ya.
guys.